Hey guys, I'm really excited for today's video because I just have never been able to stop thinking about how horcruxes are made since I made that TikTok. And between that video and the video that I made about the Elder Wand on TikTok, those comment sections kind of helped me finalize and fine tune and make sure I'm incredibly clear about how I believe horcruxes are made. This is such a fun debate throughout the fandom because no one knows the answer, and there's literally no way to find an answer because J.K. Rowling won't talk about it. She won't ever say. She claims that this, and then how she described Voldemort getting back to his rudimentary body, she said those two stories made her publisher want to throw up. So she just claims that it's way too awful to even talk about, but I don't know. I think the people have made even crazier things than she could ever come up with. My theory is based off of 3 different statements that I've read or found along the lines throughout the internet, interviews, transcripts, all that stuff throughout the books. There are 3 statements that really drive my theory, and that is, it was an interview with J.K. Rowling where, and I don't even know who else, like I found this deep on the internet, it was like a Pottercast interview where they ask her, what did they ask her? Something along the lines of, oh my gosh, no words. They asked her who was the first person to make a horcrux, and her exact words were, I think it would be Herpo the Foul. So the fact that she didn't even have a definitive story in her mind during this interview, it was her thinking about the timeline, the world she created, and that this is what makes sense, this is what makes sense to her. It's almost like there's a whole other world and she doesn't even know everything, even though it's a world she herself created. I don't know that I'm explaining that correctly, hold on. As someone who very much enjoys writing myself, as somebody who has written many stories in my life, and as someone who is currently helping somebody else write a fanfic, as you're writing a new world, it's almost like you have to put up all the stilts in the tent before you decorate inside the tent. So she put up all these stilts and made this absolutely massive tent, but then everything under that kind of self-populates and fills in. And with the friend that I'm helping write this fanfic, it's a pretty long, a very long story. It's multiple storylines and things like that. So as we're having these conversations and talks, she's asking me, well, what do you think should happen in this situation? And I was like, honestly, I think we should just leave it for now. And as we talk about these other things, I think the answer will just come to us. Like, I think everything's just gonna fall into place. And every single time it does. So I'm not saying that any part of my theory is what J.K. Rowling had ever talked about or spoke about or what she thinks is going on. I don't know that she's even written this much or thought this much about the story. This is me filling in the blanks of everything that I could find. But the other statement that drives this theory has to do with the Elder Wand and the fact that there was one of the holders of the Elder Wand studied it and wrote a book called Magic Most Evil. And everything in that book is stuff he learned from the Elder Wand. And it is one of the very, 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 very few books that say anything at all about a horcrux. It won't even talk about them. He himself, in the book Magic Most Evil, writes, horcruxes are too disturbing or too dark to even talk about. So my question is, how did the Elder Wand know about horcruxes? It's not like it's got the internet where it can just, download the newest update and figure out everything that there is to know about magic. It could have either been in the hands of somebody else or used by somebody else. There's a whole lot of theories that can come from how did the Elder Wand know about horcruxes to teach this wizard God-a-lot? And my final question is, do we really think it's a coincidence that Voldemort and Herpo the Foul are the only ones that we know that made horcruxes and that both of them had a basilisk? Do we really just think that that's a coincidence? Really? Like, I don't understand how no one else has, just the dots are right there. Why is no one else connecting them? Why have I not been able to find another Harry Potter creator that has made that connection or made that statement? Or am I missing something? Is there somebody out there that's already said that horcruxes are tied to basilisks? Because I can't find anyone else. But it makes so much, it just clicked. It was so easy. It was just the most logical answer to me. What do you... As far as we know, a basilisk cannot be born on its own. You have to take a chicken egg and put it under a toad so that way when it hatches, it's a basilisk, or like the king of snakes. So when all of this shit was going down, the people in the ministry that are the people that wrangle up and take care of magical creatures and shit, they had to keep every single chicken coop under watch chicken coop under watch to make sure there were no toads in it. Or, you know, like they had to make sure that no basilisks were being made. Many people tried to make them, but they got caught every time. So as far as I know, Herpo the Foul, Salazar Slytherin, and Voldemort's was Salazar Slytherin's, had a basilisk. A couple of fun facts about a basilisk is that to determine between a male and a female, it has a little red plume on the top of its head. And funny enough, the one that's in the Chamber of Secrets is supposed to be a male. So in Harry Potter Lego, when you're playing and you see the little red plume on its head, it's actually not supposed to be a female, but I don't know why it's a female in that game. It's also classified as one of the most dangerous creatures because it's a known wizard killer that cannot be domesticated no matter what you do. Like Hagrid could not domesticate this creature. Only a Parselmouth with a relationship with it could create it. So maybe it's like after it's like hatched, it's like first impression, but then that doesn't explain why Voldemort would be able to connect to it. It really seems like only a Parselmouth is able to control a basilisk, i.e. Herpo the Foul was a Parselmouth. Actually, there's a fourth question that drives my theory. Why is it that only descendants of Salazar Slytherin, Harry, who has the soul of Voldemort, so like Salazar Slytherin adjacent, and Herpo the Foul, why are they the only ones in the entire history of everyone we know in the entire Hogwarts, Harry Potter, I almost said Hogwarts Legacy, Harry Potter series world from start to finish, why are these the only people that we know that can speak Parseltongue? The only ones. And I understand it's incredibly rare. You had to make that point and nobody else could have it in the main series. I get that. But Herpo the Foul can speak Parseltongue. There's a whole lot of time between Herpo the Foul in ancient Greece, medieval times, and whatever century, 19th, 20th, the actual main series. I don't really understand centuries. Don't even get me started. I can't do that today. I don't need to learn basic things. I just want to learn about Harry Potter. There's a lot of time in there. You can't tell me that nobody outside of the Slytherin line didn't have Parseltongue. But there's no one. I can't find anyone anywhere. No one. To throw in another fun fact about Herpo the Foul, because I'm just bouncing all over the place right now setting this up. We haven't even gotten to all the other things that I need to set up, but I'm so sorry. I'm so excited about this video. My brain's in so many places. Fun fact about Herpo the Foul. His eyes started turning yellow after he made his horcrux, which is another characteristic of the basilisk, which also correlates with Voldemort, becoming more snake-like over time. His eyes didn't turn yellow. He lost a nose. He got, weird skin and all that other weird stuff that happened to him. But Herpo the Foul had yellow eyes. So both of them developed snake-like features. And you can't tell me that the basilisk doesn't make sense when they both develop snake-like features. I hope you didn't think that was too much, because we're going to be connecting all of this to the Deathly Hallows as well. Okay, I've also written out like a little visual timeline because I kept getting like lost in everything, but let's talk about the order in which things seem to occur based on the timeline that we know, keeping in mind that J.K. Rowling has never in her life thought about an actual timeline or dates or real time in the real world. She just kind of, lives in her little magical world, and that's okay. All right, ancient Greece is BC time. So all the way down here is Herpo the Foul, and then sometime within the medieval time, the book Secrets of the Darkest Arts was written, and I wrote it down by Owl Bullock, Owlebullock. And this is presumably written during the medieval time, so that would be around the time that Herpo the Foul lived, existed. Again, we have absolutely zero timeline. We just know ancient Greece and medieval time period, and that kind of falls under this large range of years category is basically how it works. Now, I tried to look up Ole, I don't know. I looked him up. There is no information, absolutely no information. You just know that he wrote the book, but the name is technically based off of a real life person. It was one of her artists for the series. So the name is just based off of one of her artists that did artwork for her in the real world. And there's absolutely nothing that can be said about this person. So make up whatever the hell you want about them, but this is the only book, the one and only book in all of the existence of all of the world that has, is there anything you can see on the other side of this? No. That has the actual written instructions on how to make a horcrux. Hermione describes it in Deathly Hallows as she's like, it's just awful, it's evil, like it's disgusting to read. Like Hermione's just like, ew, no. You see this book also in Hogwarts Legacy when you're in the restricted section, and yeah, it's very interesting. Okay. Yes, it is Secrets of the Darkest Arts that you can find and see in Hogwarts Legacy, but the book by God-a-Lot, Magic Most Evil, was also read by Hermione, who got really frustrated that there was absolutely nothing important in it. It literally just says it's too dark to even talk about. And this is also the book that, you know, when Harry opens up that book in the restricted section and starts screaming, I'm not exactly sure that it's the exact same book, but this book, Magic Most Evil, is said to let out a ghostly wail when you open it. But on our timeline, that takes us to the Middle Ages. So sometime in the Middle Ages, God-a-Lot had the Elder Wand and wrote the book Magic Most Evil. Now, before we get to him, let's back it up to Salazar Slytherin, who also lived in the Middle Ages. And let me get those dates. From 934 to 1026 AD, Salazar Slytherin supposedly lived within those years, give or take a little bit, which is about 200 years before Antioch, whatever his name is, the oldest Peverell brother, lived and existed in the world, and at some point in his life got the Elder Wand. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to Salazar Slytherin, and back to my point about how are these the only people that actually speak Parseltongue, and we know that the Slytherin line was very, very, very willing to inbreed to keep the trait of Parseltongue alive. So we can make the little hop, skip, and jump and assume that any pureblood family with that ability would likely do the same, right? So I don't think it's a crazy conclusion to say that Salazar Slytherin is a descendant of Herpo the Foul. I know I'm not the first person to say this, and I know Harry Potter theory has made the same connection. So it's a pretty easily made connection considering they're the only ones that speak Parseltongue. So Salazar Slytherin has lived his life, he has founded Hogwarts, he's grown his own basilisk, and he's fled the school because he's so angry that they're letting in Muggleborns, and he goes and he does, I don't know, something or whatever, skips rocks in the woods, I don't know. It is theorized within the actual Harry Potter world that at some point Salazar came back to Hogwarts, reconciled, made up with the rest of the founders, and lived out his days and died at Hogwarts. Who is that committed to the bit and switches up, though? There is nothing that anybody could say that would ever make me believe that Salazar returned back to Hogwarts peacefully and with good intentions. Nobody goes as far as that man did and changes his mind in his old age. Like, what, did he go and find peace in the Forbidden Forest? I don't think so. I think he went back to Hogwarts, pretended to make up just to get back down to his chamber to get to his basilisk, and he tried to make a horcrux himself and didn't survive. J.K. Rowling has said in an interview that many wizards over the years have tried and failed. I think Salazar could have been one of them, and that's why he had a basilisk, not just to kill Muggleborns, which obviously that's probably why he did have it, and he probably would have been like Voldemort, but let's take a moment and remember that Voldemort was killing Muggles left and right to make his horcruxes. He was killing Muggles left and right to make the Inferi to go and protect his horcruxes in the Salazar Slytherin's locket and the cave and all that fun stuff. So, it's used for both things. But I think Salazar went back to make a horcrux and it failed. Next on our timeline of the Middle Ages is the Peverell brothers. They are assumably the first ones to get the Hallows, but the oldest one, the oldest Peverell brother, the elder one brother, I don't want to hear, okay. He is assumably the first person that gets the elder wand before anybody else does. He's the first person to get it from death because that's what we read in Beetle of the Bard. So despite the fact that there are 5 other wizards that have the elder wand within the time period of the Middle Ages, it has been ordered, in any way I can find these people, it has been ordered in such a way that obviously this eldest brother would be the first one to get it from death. So the oldest brother lives sometime between 1214 and 1292, which is 200 years after Salazar Slytherin died. And I'm going to explain why that's important in a little bit. But before we move any farther, let's talk about who Death was in that story. The book Beetle the Bard didn't come out until the 15th century, sometime in the 15th century. So this was well after these 5 wizards, including the eldest brother, or plus the eldest brother, had the wand. So this book came out pretty well into this wand's bloody history. Obviously, it's potentially, not obviously, but it's very likely a true tale that was slowly shifted into a wives' tale over the years and then told to children as a cautionary tale or a lesson that could be learned. So this is where we get to the part where I totally and completely believe that Herpo the Foul is Death in this story and that he created the Deathly Hallows. Because who else would be a master of death other than someone who has outlived time and death? Because at this point, if Herpo the Foul is still alive, he was sometime in BC. We are now in the 1200 years. We are in the 1214 to 1292. That man is over 1200 years old, well over 1200 years old. That is the picture of death. Because even Slughorn, when talking to Riddle, he says the form the person would take, the way they would walk this earth, is death would be preferable to the way the person would live their life, being immortal like that. And honestly, the only thing I really connected to is when we see Nicholas Flamel in the Fantastic Beasts movies and Jacob shakes his hand and everything breaks and he's just this fragile little brittle old thing. I really feel like it's that, Harry Potter Theory also has a couple videos where they theorize that Herpo the Foul is still alive and they feel like that necklace that Draco curses Katie Bell with to get to Dumbledore, they think that is his horcrux. And that's a pretty cool theory. I can totally see where they get their evidence. I do. I also agree that Herpo the Foul is still alive, but I don't know that I fully agree that that's his horcrux. I don't think I really my theory doesn't even have a part that I guess what his horcrux is, other than the fact of when I made my video about the Elder Wand and I was like, how does the Elder Wand know about horcruxes? And somebody commented, maybe the Elder Wand is a horcrux itself. And I was like, you're right, because it actually doesn't get destroyed. That bit in the movies is just for the movies. Harry doesn't actually destroy it in the books. He puts it back in Dumbledore's grave. I still think that wand should be destroyed and it is sentient evil, but that's besides the point. It gets put back in Dumbledore's grave so we never see it broken, and people can feel the vibes. People can feel the power. People can feel the power radiating off of this wand. Power could be mistaken for a couple things, including the power of a horcrux or the power of a very, very, very powerful dark wizard embodied in this wand. Now, it could also just be a really, really, really powerful wand. It has special tail hair. It has elderwood. It doesn't really need anything else making it more powerful. Those two things alone already make it stand as one of the most powerful wands. So it doesn't have to be a horcrux to make my theories work. I'm just saying it's a possibility, and I thought that was a really cool comment and a really cool theory. So imagine somebody that is over 1200 years old. They probably look like death. When making my theory, I just thought about the story of the tale of the 3 brothers, and I took every single word so literally to make this theory because They cheated death. How did they cheat death? How did they beat death? We're still working on why he gave them the Deathly Hallows. Because like I said, Salazar Slytherin was his direct descendant. Wouldn't it make sense to just, if you're done living, I mean, after 1,200 years, you're probably done. You're like, okay, immortality's cool. I'm so glad I achieved it. I'm so glad I've seen all this stuff. I'm actually kind of over it now. Somebody take me out, please. Maybe he just was ready to be done and passed along the Deathly Hallows, but why would he give it to the Peverell brothers and not somebody from his own line if he's connected to the Slytherin family line, which has probably turned into the Gaunt line at this point. But to back it up and to round out my whole how does the wand know about horcruxes, I think Herpo the Foul made the Deathly Hallows and he used the Elder Wand to make the first horcrux. Obviously, you do not need the Elder Wand to make a horcrux because Voldemort did it before he had the Elder Wand. It's fine. He was still powerful enough and he did it right and he got lucky, I guess. But I think that the Elder Wand, I think that he mastered, could see Thestrals, handled all this shit, made the most powerful wand ever, and was the master of death because he couldn't be killed, because he had the most powerful wand, he could go invisible and he couldn't be found, and he had the resurrection stone, which basically cheats death in and of itself. So very obviously, he would be death. He would be the master of death at that point because he has lived 1,200 years. So by the time the wand goes through these people and gets to God-a-Lot, that wand has been through history from ancient Greece all the way to the Middle Ages through all of these different wizards, and that is how it knows about horcruxes. Because how else would the book Secrets of the Darkest Arts have been written in I think I clicked my thing. How else would the Secrets of Darkest Arts be written in medieval time and have the exact instructions on how to make a horcrux? Maybe this person was an apprentice under Herpo the Foul. Maybe he studied from him. Maybe he learned dark arts from him because this guy was just like a pioneer for the dark arts of the ages at this time. I have two ideas on why the Deathly Hallows went to the Peverell brothers. And I think that either Herpo the Foul was just done living and he was like, take it, I'm done, just take these Hallows, I want to be out of this. I'm going to go destroy my Horcrux and I'm going to go to the Beyond now. Or the wand was his Horcrux and he just gave it away hoping something would happen to it maybe. But the cloak and the resurrection stone don't give off the same energy that the wand does. So neither of those could have been a Horcrux. The wand is the only one that has the potential to be one. But honestly, I kind of don't really think it is. I think he had a different Horcrux. And I do like Harry Potter theory that it is that necklace that does, I see their connections, it does make sense, but I don't know that it was that. I just don't. There are plenty of cursed objects and there's plenty of creepy things in Borgin and Burkes, I don't know that it would have gotten all the way to their timeline from ancient Greece. I don't know. My other theory though is that the Peverell brothers destroyed his Horcrux, killing Herpo the Foul, and took the 3 Hallows, each one for their own use. And that was how they bested death, they cheated death, because like I said, I was trying to take the book literally to decipher its deeper meaning because it was ever so clearly a wives' tale that was turned into a children's tale to teach them a lesson on life and death and all of these fun little things. And that's very common in the real world, to take a real life event and shape it and evolve it into a teachable story, but that's appropriate for children. So I don't know that they could have taught, that could have been in a children's story. Because it honestly never really made sense to me that the first wizard, the start of that story just doesn't make sense to me. There's a river and they made a bridge. That just doesn't make sense to me that people normally die there. To me, that just gives the vibes of Herpo the Foul is the troll under the bridge, and anybody that tries to cross the troll bridge dies, but these guys didn't die because they defeated the troll. I just never really understood why it was such a big deal that they made a bridge and didn't drown in the river. Like that just always really bothered me. Like, in all of its time, if it's actually death itself who transcends time and is outside of time, it was actually death itself, these are not the first fucking wizards you came across. They're just not. So I don't know why you're surprised. There are plenty of other wizards that have bested and beat death due to magic. So, like, I don't know why it was these brothers that death was so impressed by. I think they destroyed the horcrux, and they killed Herpo the Foul, and they took his Hallows. And honestly, I think that one might have been evil because it was so angry about being taken from, like, its creator. Because, I mean, wands are very loyal. Maybe it was just a really, really, really loyal wand. And maybe that sentient evil was just calling death to each of its owners until it finally found someone. Like Harry said, it just fit right in his hands, but he did not want that power. He didn't want anything to do with that. He wanted to move on and live a hopefully normal life. And I'm just sitting here thinking that my theory also makes sense as to why there's absolutely no history of the Elder Wand before the Peverell brothers, because nobody would have had it before the eldest brother besides the creator itself. And it's assumed that death was the creator, but these are wizard-made objects, in my opinion. I'm not sure what would make the cloak so perfect or make the stone work the way it does. I don't really have much explanations for those. The only thing we know about invisibility cloaks is that you can weave demiguise hair or use disillusionment charms, but both of those, they're not perfect. You can, they can fade over time, and, they can tear and, shit like that. And then the stone, I don't know, because that, like, is very much along the lines of, like, bringing someone back. Like, obviously it's along the lines of bringing someone back from the dead, but it's like, when in Aladdin, when he's like, there are 3 rules, don't ask me to bring anybody back from the dead, because then it's just like this weird, like, corpse of a thing. Maybe Herpo the Foul was just genuinely trying to find a way to bring his fellow wizards back from the dead, because they were getting burned and prosecuted by muggles that didn't understand and were afraid of magic. Also, to add in there, I think Salazar Slytherin knew Herpo the Foul. Oh my god, I just literally thought of this in real time. No, Salazar Slytherin left Hogwarts and he went to go talk to Herpo the Foul, and then he came back to make his horcrux and he failed. He went and found Herpo the Foul to learn how to make horcruxes. That's what it is. That's what it is. He read the book, Magic Most. He read Secrets of the Darkest Arts. He read that. He made himself a little basilisk, and then he was like, well, I'm kind of confused on a couple things. Let me go find my ancestor who's actually still alive, because I know all the family secrets, and I'm gonna go talk to him. You guys are losers. See ya. Goes off, learns. I mean, this is literally, honestly, it just follows what Voldemort did, where he leaves, he goes off, he finds some diadems, he makes some horcruxes, or he goes off and does some, evil shit, and then he comes back pretending to be good and nice and all these things, but really, Voldemort just came back to Hogwarts to hide the horcrux diadem. He didn't act, he came back and he applied to be a professor and was turned down, but he also came back to hide his diadem, so it was like a dual trip. There's just no way Salazar was that committed to the bit and switched up. He was coming back to make a horcrux and failed. Now, about my theory on how a basilisk is involved in this process, because genuinely, I don't let my comments affect me. I don't ever have an actual emotional reaction besides like a happy one from any of my comments. If there's anything negative, it doesn't matter to me. You're just a person on the other side of the screen who is having a split-second interaction with me. What you say to me, even if it's hurtful, at the end of the day really doesn't matter, because what you say has more to do about you than it has to do about me. And it has to do with how you feel about yourself on the inside. So let's keep that in mind here on how I handle comments on my TikTok. Now, I will say, it made me really fucking angry on my Horcrux Theory TikTok, where people were like, Nagini's not a basilisk. Well, no shit, she's not a basilisk. It is canon fact that after Voldemort was destroyed by accidentally Horcruxing Harry, that he stayed alive on Nagini's venom. What does that have to do with a Horcrux? He just simply stayed alive because either he was in a more snake-like state or what. I don't really understand how the venom kept him alive. I don't understand the science behind it, but it did. and Nagini's not a basilisk. You only need a basilisk to start the process, because that's why nobody else ever thought to keep going. I think that it prepares the soul for splitting, because also when you look at a basilisk itself, it is literally just a weapon of death. All you have to do is look in its eyes. It has every means in the world to kill you. Every means in the world. It does not need a Medusa stare, you know? It can kill you in so many other ways. But it's the fact that with one look, it can separate your soul from your body. And there is just that's gonna be a totally other, you know what? That's gonna be next week's YouTube video, is what does the soul mean in the Harry Potter series? Fuck yeah, I have next week's topic. Go me. Anyway, funny thing is I'm gonna be filming next week's literally right after this, so don't mind me wearing the exact same outfit. Maybe I'll change. I might shower and eat my dinner in between. I have sourdough starters, so I made myself this like prosciutto honey roasted like sourdough bread. I'm so excited. It's a girl dinner night. Anyway, so sorry for the sidetrack. You need a basilisk to prepare the soul. That is what makes the person more snake-like. And then you commit the murder, you Avada Kedavra, and then there is a spell. Because when Riddle is talking to Slughorn in Half-Blood Prince, the book's like right here, that's why I'm pointing at it. I shall read to you. By an act, how do you do it? Splitting is an act of violation, it's against nature. Splitting it is an act of violation, it is against nature, talking about the soul. But how do you do it? Asked Riddle. By an act of evil, the supreme act of evil, by committing murder. Killing rips the soul apart. The wizard's intent upon creating a horcrux would cause the damage to his advantage. He would encase the torn portion, but how? There is a spell, do not ask me, I don't know. So, what we know, based off of this chapter and J.K. Rowling's interviews, is that she says that there's a process, that there's a couple steps that has to go with it. So I think the process before everything has to do with the basilisk, that maybe this has something to do with the same storyline of how Voldemort got back into his rudimentary body and everything. Some crazy shit along those lines. There's like this whole theory on it was, what's her face's, that she was pregnant. Oh, what's her name? I'll think of it in a minute. But whatever the ministry woman is that Peter Pettigrew takes back to the defeated Voldemort in Albania, and then he uses her to make Nagini a horcrux. But then there's also this whole thing where she was pregnant and they used the fetus to give Voldemort a body, and that's why he looks like that sort of thing. But again, another theory, and I'm gonna have to get into that one on another day, I think. But between this chapter and J.K. Rowling's interviews about, the process and everything, I think the basilisk is the process. There might be a potion, there might be something. Maybe you're just drinking the basilisk venom and slowly becoming, immune and snake-like, or I don't know, that has something to do with the basilisk, and that's why you need it first. And then you Avada Kedavra, and then there is a specific spell where you take your soul, your split soul, and then put it into your designated object. Now, because of these facts, how was Harry an accidental horcrux if Voldemort didn't do the spell to encase that part of his soul? Was it that after you Avada Kedavra someone, the soul is just floating around and it's not even really seen? Or is it like when a Dementor gives you the kiss and it pulls out of your body sort of thing? So it was outside of his body, and instead of coming back to Voldemort, it went to Harry to survive. Or he had the Sword of Gryffindor with him, which wouldn't really make sense, because then where would it have gone, or how would he have gotten it? I think he might have had Nagini with him, and he had done everything he needed to do. And then it was when he cast the spell to encase that part of his soul after Avada Kedavra Lily, that was what blew up in his face. So instead of the soul piece going where it was supposed to go, it went to Harry, because I don't think it was the Avada Kedavra on Harry. Well, it had to have been the Avada Kedavra on Harry. That has set me down a very weird path that I don't think I'll ever get out of. So we're just going to cut that off. And if you have any suggestions or help, please let me know in the comments. But yes, Voldemort only had access to the basilisk for his first one. How would he make the other ones? You only need it the first time. You only needed to start, and then you're snake-like and you've got all this stuff and your body is prepared, and now you can just go around Avada Kedavraing and encasing souls, you know? But yeah, that's like my big ass theory that I've been developing that I've been really excited to share with you guys. Can you just begin to imagine how people are going to react when I say Herpo the Foul was the creator of the Elder Wand on TikTok and that Salazar Slytherin died making a horcrux? Those are going to be my opening lines of my TikToks. I can't wait for everybody to go nuts on me. That's what she said. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know your theories. If you have anything to go off of this, I really enjoyed that this was honestly a collaborating effort between my theory and all my friends on my TikTok. And I really enjoy hearing what you guys have to say. I don't have the only perspective in the world. We all have different ways of looking at things. And I love to learn from your perspective and your thoughts because it makes me grow as a person. It makes me grow as a creator. And I'm able to actually finalize and make this a bigger, story. Like I said, I just wanted to fill in the gaps of the story that, we do have and kind of fill in the in-between and make an even more fun storyline for you guys. But yeah, I'm gonna go eat some dinner and probably shower, and then I'm gonna film my other one. What did I say I was gonna do? Oh, what a soul